Well, you know what? I'm not going to cooperate with my attention. You guys.
Oh, come on, Ed. Don't make me do that.
You can have fun with this.
I just had an extra day on the East Coast and decided at the last minute, hey, let's just do something on Monday, because there weren't any protests planned for during the week. You know, a lot of people come out and protest on the weekend, and it's like, you know, you're shouting at empty buildings. So I thought, hey, let's do a little something on a weekday, get a little media exposure, and get attention from some of the people actually staffing the White House and the, you know, surrounding office compound. And for me as a veteran, the message that's most important is, hey, if you're getting unlawful orders, not only do you have a duty legally to disobey those orders, like if Donald Trump says, let's take a military action without congressional approval that requires congressional approval, it's not just unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's your duty to resist and to disobey those orders. But also from a point of conscience, you know, I was in Fallujah in 2004, and I feel like an old man now. You know, my war was 13 years ago at this point, but I tortured people, and that's something I got to live with. And now, right now, there's someone who's got to live with what they did in Syria. And there are a lot of people, you know, State Department, CIA, who have had their hands in what's going on in Syria, who have a lot of blood on their hands and things that they got to live with on their consciences for the rest of their lives. And I want to do something to not just prevent them from getting that, but also make less victims of war. So last minute, hey, let's go out noon Monday at the White House. And I get there with my friends Bill and Heather. We pull up, park, walk up. I'm there at about 11:30, and I got my camera kit with me, my microphone. So I started doing man on the street interviews. There's this anti-gun group there, so I'm like putting him on the spot, and he's trying to tell me, oh yeah, there's nothing in your house worth defending if someone comes in armed. And I'm like, how about my life? And he said, oh, well, you should turn and run. Okay, so if someone's invading my house with a gun, you want me to turn and run? So it was a very fun interview, and I kind of chased him away. You know, he got a little embarrassed having his logical contradictions exposed. So I chased him, like, you know, 3 steps back to where he was standing, and I turn around and I'm surrounded by Secret Service agents, which is not in and of itself a really new experience to me, but I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna give me crap for filming. I'm not even on the sidewalk, I'm in the street, this is totally legit, like, what's going on? And the first guy comes up to me, and it's, let's see, again, to put things as nicely as I can, someone who's probably not anywhere near meeting the physical fitness standards of the United States Secret Service. Are you Adam Kokesh? Who's asking, you know? And it's like, if you're gonna come and arrest me, you know, for who I am, at least pronounce my name right, you know? And he says, we believe there's a stay-away order for you. We believe you have a stay-away order. And I don't remember the exact words in the conversation then, but, you know, I said, like, hey, am I being detained? You know, am I free to go? Am I legally required to answer these questions? And the guy doesn't really know how to handle that. So another officer comes up who seems a little more with it, and he says, we believe there's a warrant for your arrest, sir. Are you Adam Kokesh? At least he's like 2 levels of improvement. He's pronouncing my name right. He's got the legal technicals right. And I say, you know, am I being detained? Am I legally required to answer that, or something like that? And he just says, well, we believe there's a warrant for your arrest. So, you know, will you identify yourself? I said, no. So he just says, all right, well, then we're going to do it this way. And he puts me in handcuffs and pulls my wallet out of my back pocket and, you know, gets my ID, runs my ID, and goes, yeah, there's a warrant for your arrest. So I end up getting asked now to go, hey, will you come over here so we can search you? I'm like, no, do it right here. And then they say, well, no, we're gonna take you over here. And so I just said, hey, I'm not going to cooperate or assist or be an accessory to this criminal behavior. And I sat down on the pavement there as a matter of resistance. Like, hey, I'm being kidnapped by, you know, members of the largest gang in the whole world, the United States government, armed thugs in costumes. And so I sit down on the ground and they frisk me and, take all the stuff out of my pockets. And they said, all right, we're taking you away now. Will you cooperate? No. So 3 of them picked me up and I said, wee, because it was like, this again, yeah, all right. I like really totally unexpected. I mean, I knew that anytime you show up to protest anywhere in DC, getting arrested is a part of that risk. But in this case, I wasn't expecting it to happen just doing interviews on the street right there. So, they carry me to the van and throw me in. And then I did a night in central booking, which is a steel cot with no mattress. Then spent 24 hours without getting any food. And I mean, they really mess with you. Like it's really a twisted system here. And of course, most of the time I'm in jail here, same as last time I was in jail. Most of the time I'm in court in the bullpens. I'm the only white dude. It's all black dudes and a couple of Hispanics maybe. And it just shows how the system is set up with this institutionalized racism to give the government an excuse to arrest people for whatever they want. And they deprive you of sleep, they deprive you of food, then they put you in front of a judge and say, now make some legal decisions. And everybody's just kind of dazed and like getting shuffled through. And it's a really sick system to see from that perspective. So went before the judge, they say you have a warrant, and I say, well, I'm not going to come back in 30 days for another hearing. What are you going to do? And they say, well, then we're going to hold you for 3 days. They ask, are you being coerced by anyone? And I said, yeah, of course. You think I'm here by my own free will? The government's coercing me. You think I wanted to be here? So, I said, I had to say, no, I'm making this decision of my own free will to reject your hearing and force you to deal with this directly. And I was really lucky about how we handled this, because now I got to take a step back and explain the warrant, because this goes back to an incident at the TSA checkpoint from about 1.5 years ago when I was on probation and I had an ankle bracelet on, a GPS monitor. And I go through a TSA checkpoint. They had actually demanded me to fly here, show up in court in DC when I was on the West Coast. So I was flying back through BWI, Baltimore Airport, go through the TSA checkpoint, and they're swabbing my ankle bracelet. I said, hey, well, what are you doing? I said, we have to swab your ankle bracelet for explosives to make sure it's not a bomb. So I say, oh, don't worry, it's probably not a bomb. As in, like, I don't know, it's a joke, because like I didn't put it there. I don't know what's in it. They told me it was a GPS ankle bracelet, but I didn't like open it up. I don't know what's in there. So just, hey, I'm not responsible for this device. And because, they said the word bomb, that's okay. I say the word bomb, they flip the switch. And if you're familiar with my YouTube channel, I've got millions of views of me punking TSA agents and TSA checkpoints. So, and I know now from having talked to some of them and been recognized, but I get recognized every time I go through a TSA checkpoint. They use my videos in their unofficial training, like how not to do it, how not to be embarrassed on YouTube. So were they out for me? I don't know, but I said, hey, it's probably not a bomb. They flip the switch, lights go off, sirens go off, the whole checkpoint shuts down. They take me into the basement to get interrogated by the FBI, and they let me go with a citation. And with the citation, it's not even a misdemeanor. It's like a big traffic ticket, but I have a court date. Then a couple months later, I wasn't going to go to court anyway, but a couple months later, the TSA sent me a letter saying that the charges had been dropped and reduced to a warning. So I'm like, oh, cool, one less thing. I can drive through Maryland without worrying about it. Because before it's like, well, okay, so I got a warrant in Maryland. If worst case scenario, who cares? I'm never in Maryland except when I'm on tour once a year. If I got to go through Maryland again, I won't be driving myself. I'll make sure there's someone else driving. So it's easier to just, for me, to live with a warrant that's non-extraditable. And I've been arrested several times since then and pulled over when they say, hey, by the way, there's a warrant for your arrest, but it's non-extraditable, so you don't have to worry about it. I'm like, okay. But then I show up at the White House, all of a sudden, oh, now it's an extraditable warrant. And I told the guy this when I was getting arrested. I said, hey, I understand there's a warrant for my arrest, but I've been told a number of times that it's non-extraditable. But hey, arrange for a protest in front of the White House, all of a sudden now it's an extraditable warrant, and here we are. So I had this letter from the TSA locked in my RV trailer on my land in Arizona, and I was able to get a message with my one phone call to my father in Colorado to call my manager on my land in Arizona to drill the lock on the trailer, break into the trailer, get this letter out, and post it to my Facebook page so that anybody in the world can see it and know that this is bogus. And it's a bogus warrant on every level. I mean, in and of itself, it's bogus because there should not have been a court date for me to have missed in the first place. The warrant itself is for failure to appear for having missed that court date, which is really funny because it's for a traffic citation. They're the equivalent. And I end up doing a week in jail over it, right? And they don't even... So I go to court, they say, all right, we're putting you on a 72-hour hold, and Maryland, Anne Arundel County, where the warrant is, can come and get you in that 72 hours. And they don't even bother. Like everybody, like if I had a felony warrant or even a misdemeanor warrant, they come get me within 24 hours. Everybody else on the block I was with here, they got picked up right away. And I'm sitting there going, all right, they're probably not coming to get me. They're just going to let me sit here. And I almost wish they had gotten me right away, because if they had gotten me right away, I would have gotten to go to court in Maryland, presented the TSA letter, and cleared the warrant. As it is, there's probably still a warrant out for my arrest. And it's funny, they released me and I'm standing here, and it's like they could arrest me at any time. If Secret Service feels like they want to mess with me some more, they could just show up and be like, hey, aren't you Adam Kokesh again? Now, from the paperwork that I got today in court, it might have been that I entered the District of Columbia with a warrant. But hey, can't really trust the government to begin with. So when you get mixed messages, hey, the warrant's not extraditable. Hey, now it's limited extradition, so it can be extradited from DC, as opposed to like, no, it's a different law, which is what the paperwork actually says now, that I broke a specific DC law. So if that's correct, technically I'm okay right now, but I can't leave the district and come back. If I leave the district and come back into the district, then I'm violating DC law. So anyway, I sit in jail for 3 days, and then just today, Saturday, got called for court. And by the way, jail here is, I mean, compared to a combat deployment, it's a fun little adventure. But my back hurts, my stomach hurts, you know, I'm really, really constipated. It's not, when the government's promise to provide you with 3 nutritional balanced meals every day while you're in jail is about as good as their promise to honor treaties with Native Americans. So it's pretty hard to live on food. Although no, I take that back. It's a pretty fair balance between crap that makes me sick to my stomach as soon as I eat it and crap that has no nutritional value. So in that sense, it is a balanced meal. Anyway, I made a lot of friends. I had a little fun. Got to play some basketball, and you know, here I am. Went to court today. They said, okay, you know, they tried to rubber stamp it, and I was like, no, I demand my documents. You haven't given me the paperwork. I was trying to get just the arrest report. Can I get the Secret Service arrest report for this? Can I read my statement? I wrote a statement. Can I read? No. Like, they actually had the marshals dragging me away from the judge by the shirt. And I was, you know, this close to a contempt of court charge, I think, today. So I really walked that line. It's a public document. We'll be able to get it eventually. One of the cool things that I forgot about the actual arrest exchange is that I said, how did you know to expect me here today? Like, why are you looking for me? And they said they have people watching my YouTube channel. So I'm thinking, you know, where you get that graphic banner at the top of your YouTube channel, I'm going to add, you know, unofficial channel of the United States Secret Service. So anyway, and then today I got back from court, and while we were on the way to court, we got to see that there was another protest going on at the Capitol. And on the way back from court, saw that they were marching from the Capitol to the White House. And I'm like, oh my God, if they actually get me out of here like they're supposed to, I'll go join them. And, you know, maybe I'll get arrested again at the White House. And of course, they messed with us here, you know, held me for, you know, what is it now, 5 more hours from then. It's something like that. And one of the guards, you know, I was asking him, like, after we got out for rec this evening for an hour, I was asking him, so like, hey, I'm supposed to be released today. What's going on? Oh, we don't release people at night. It's going to be tomorrow morning. Like, these power trippers, sometimes they just like to do that. But it's, I don't know. I guess I'm just so good at civil disobedience at this point that I can get arrested without even trying. I want to try to pull like a big lesson away from this. But if you didn't already know that the government of the United States messes with activists and has no respect for freedom of speech or the right to protest or assembly, then, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but this is just one more example of, it sets a slightly more dangerous precedent than we've had in the past. That because of the surveillance state, because of the excessive budgets of all these agencies, that they can have people watching your YouTube channel, they can have people tracking your movement, they can just find an excuse to arrest you. And this is bigger than even my case, because they've passed so many laws, everything is criminalized. The average American commits 3 felonies a day. They can arrest you at any time. But who do they go after? The people protesting, the people challenging their power, the people who are exposing the fact that government is a racket, that government by definition is criminal, that it is a territorial monopoly on violence. And it's not about justice, it's not about keeping you safe. In fact, it makes you less safe. It's about controlling you and exploiting you on behalf of the elites, the bankers who really own this government, who really run the world. And, I'm honored to be considered a threat to the system. And at the same time, kind of walking that line and going like, well, was the next step they take me out like Michael Hastings? Or like, one of the Black Panthers, or like the guy who really is my predecessor as an activist, Scott Camille from Vietnam Veterans Against the War. But here we are, and I hope that anybody who hears this story takes it as some kind of motivation to stand up and do something about it. I talked to a lot of the guys in jail who really appreciate and respect my activism, but they feel helpless. And a lot of them go, I just want to provide for my kids. I just want to make sure my kids, growing up black in DC, don't end up on the streets. I want to make sure that my kids have a roof over their heads and financial security and a good education. And I go, you know what, that's all nice, but what good is it if we haven't solved the bigger problems of this injustice system? What if we haven't moved past this phase of human existence, of modern, overgrown, violent, bureaucratic governments where you can get rolled up for having the wrong skin color, you can get rolled up for being a protester, you can get rolled up because of the war on drugs, because they're trying to serve their corporate sponsors. So I would hope that if anybody's taking the time to hear this story of this little peculiarity of standing up to modern statism, get a little inspiration out of it at least.
And so where do you plan to go from here? So my understanding is, at least legally, you're supposed to go to Maryland and deal with the warrant, right? You're still considered a fugitive, right? According to Maryland.
Yeah.
So is it your intention to go to Maryland, or are you just getting the hell out of Dodge?
I don't know. I think it'd be kind of fun to do this again next week. We'll see.